Hi, I'm Scott. In a previous video, I discussed a game I played in 2018 called The Gardens Between. I hadn't actually heard of this game before, but it popped up in my free games for December of Xbox Live. So I downloaded it, gathered the kids around, and started playing the game. This title came as a huge surprise to me. I think the best way to describe this game would be to break it down into three main areas: the gameplay and mechanics, the story, and finally, the design. You start The Gardens Between with one very simple control, which is the ability to reverse or move forward in time. To be clear, this isn't the character's ability to move forward through time. This is only you as the observer. Think of it like being able to rewind or play a video. The characters and objects within this world will continue along their journey if you move forward, or will retrace their steps if you move backward. This creates an interesting dynamic for the player. You would think it would maybe pull you out of the immersion a little bit, but rather than feeling detached from the characters and the story, I felt more like I was reading the story, like a book, which only needed me to keep turning the page. After a few levels, you gain the ability to place the lantern, which one of the characters is carrying, on special plinths that can move around. You can also interact with some switches which can turn off or on the light which is absorbed by the lantern. Your objective is to get this lantern, with the light in it, to the plinth at the top of each stage. This ability to interact with these switches is as far as the player can control these characters. This creates a dynamic where you as the player have to analyze the level and see where the main characters need to drop off the lantern so that it doesn't lose its light at these black hole flowers, and where the main characters need to carry the lantern to activate these light bridges or clear away this purple fog which acts as a barrier. What complicates things further is that some things have to be completed in order. But once a sequence has been completed, the player can rewind time and cause the characters to interact with a previously inaccessible object or path. It really does force the player to think about the order of their actions, and to not be too hasty. A final aspect of the gameplay is these objects which are not part of the time stream which the characters share. These objects can't be manipulated by the characters, but rather by the player holding time at a certain point. Like midway through a lightning strike, causing the bolt to grow and reach over to another metallic object, or stopping a drip mid-fall to complete a lighting circuit. These can cause further changes to the path for the characters, allowing them to progress. It takes the established primary mechanic and adds a new wrinkle to it. There's no voice acting or text in The Garden Between. None at all. The only indication of the story is given to you with the objects littered throughout the different levels. Sometimes that might be an oversized TV playing retro video games, or a huge keypad which the characters type on as they use it as a bridge. It's your job as the player to give context to these objects as the level progresses, to understand their relevance to these characters, and why they are being included in this level as a whole. At the end of each level in a semi-static diorama, we are given a memory that these two characters share. This reveals the relationship which these characters have and ultimately creates the payoff at the conclusion of the game. This bare bones style of storytelling fits perfectly with the narrative the developers are trying to tell. The idea that inanimate and seemingly random objects actually hold some relevance to these characters is a nice way to tell the story. It shows that the relationships, like the one between these two characters, often go beyond words and direct communication. These types of relationships can often rely on the importance and significance of objects. And, much like the way these objects can impact on the game world and the path the characters take, the importance of these objects can change the path that these relationships can take as well. Here is where I have some minor criticisms of this title, but first I will start with the positives. The design of these characters, the world and the objects within it is wonderful. It really leans into the bright, childlike view that these characters obviously would have. Colours are strong and bold, the geometry is simple and clean, and the sound design is satisfying and complementary to the visuals. They come together in a very cohesive way. Where I do find some issues is with the level design itself. Before I go any further, I want to say that I actually thought that the majority of the level design is great. It works well with the gameplay mechanics, and if it was any more open-ended or complex, it runs the danger of breaking the game. However, it does feel like the developers never got a chance to really push the envelope on how this world goes together. There are some small hints at this kind of layered design in the final level and in the later stages, where earlier actions affect the environment around the characters. Just as it felt like the game was going to dive into this, it ended. Just as it felt like it was hitting its stride. To be honest, this is not a huge criticism. A game ending before the mechanic has gotten stale is never a bad thing. Maybe if there had been more levels, I would have gotten tired of playing around with time. I just wanted it to develop a little bit further. However, this could have been a deliberate decision taken by the developers to make the game better. Something that a lot of other developers maybe could learn from. Myself included. For now, let's just end on this title screen, which is one of my favourites from this last year.